Welcome to the UNSECURITY podcast. Each week, Evan and Brad give an inside look at current information security news, breaches, best practices, and other things you should know to improve your information security. Here are your hosts, FRSecure's Evan Francine and Brad Nye.
All right. Hi, folks. Welcome to the UNSECURITY podcast. This is episode 45. Joining me, as always, is my good friend, Brad Nye. Brad, want to say hi?
Hi, Evan, and listeners.
Right? Yeah, I know. We forgot that last time.
I know. I remember.
Well, it's good to be back in the office again. We tried to record this yesterday, and I was in Washington, D.C. in a hotel room, and you were here sitting right where you're probably at right now.
Exact same spot.
And, yeah, the quality was terrible.
Yeah.
But here we are. Now I'm sitting across from my buddy. I can see him and I can look him in the eyes, and we can talk about security things and such.
Let's do this.
All right, let's start off by just catching up. These are the show notes that I wrote last week, so I wanted to just sit down, catch up. We've got lots of things going on. I know you were so busy last week that you had to cut your Friday short and go get some rest.
I kind of overdid it a little bit. I think it'd been a couple weeks of kind of building up and that, but it's good. I'm feeling much better and took the weekend and kind of just recharged and spent some time with the family. That's always good.
It's so easy to get unhealthy in this industry, doing what we do.
Yeah. Friday, I came in at about 6, and about 9:30, I was just like, I'm not gonna get anything done today. I just can't focus.
Just hit a wall.
Just done.
Yeah.
Luckily, I'd had the day blocked for some internal work. I didn't have any meetings or anything, so that was pretty good.
Yeah.
But it happens.
Good to get some. Oh yeah, absolutely. It happens to all of us, and I think, I was thinking, I'm going to be on a panel today. We were just talking about that in a couple hours, and one of the shirt, I was thinking about wearing a T-shirt under a sport coat, because these are like corporate people, and so being up on a panel with a T-shirt. But I wanted to wear that mental health hackers shirt because it's, man, if you don't keep an eye on it, I think this job will kill you.
Well, I think a part of it is just our personalities that kind of get drawn into this, and where you just focus,
right?
And you just lose track. We were talking, the IR, Oscar was saying he was up a couple weeks ago looking at some malware memory dumps and stuff till like 3 a.m. and realized, oh man, I gotta get some sleep. I've done the same thing where you're like, we were looking into it, and I got up, and it was like 11 o'clock. I was like, I haven't moved out of this chair for like 8 hours.
Yeah. It gets away from you.
It's not the best thing, but
no. Speaking of IR, how's that going? That's still ongoing. The one
still
that we've
ongoing.
Been talking about for weeks.
Yeah, still ongoing. Mostly contained. Now we're just trying to do some troubleshooting to eliminate, how if they put a new machine up, it's getting infected as fast as it is.
Yeah, did you figure that out?
I can't really give details on IR, but no.
Okay, so if you know Brad personally, give him a call and ask him about it. Maybe he can tell you in private.
Yeah, we have asked for some assistance and are waiting on it.
Okay.
So
yeah, I know who that is.
It is what it is.
So in this IR, it's been kind of funny, not funny, but entertaining somewhat in a kind of, I don't know. That's probably not the right word either. But just watching sort of the drama unfold with this whole thing.
Yeah, it's kind of like, when you see like the car wreck on the side, everybody stares. It's kind of.
But this is like car wreck with like the mother was having an affair and they were arguing in the car.
Yeah, it was. And I do feel bad for some of the people involved with this that are working, that were not involved in creating the environment, right?
Right.
And where they're at and having to go through. But
when we already have a job casualty.
Yeah, at least one. So
yeah, at least one. Yeah, bummer. All right, so yeah, that continues to go. Well, last week I was in Bulgaria. I didn't listen to the podcast, so I have no idea if I even came across on the...
You chimed in a couple of times.
Okay. I was sitting at a coffee shop outside of in Sofia, and it was a great place. 50-cent espressos.
I think my comment was Evan's heart rate is roughly that of a hummingbird's.
Yeah, man, I had a lot of them. I mean, one $5 bill is going to get me like 10 espressos. Are you kidding? Yeah, it was awesome. And then I learned that culture there is just so much different. If you ever get a chance to go to Eastern Europe, and maybe we'll bring you and I can go sometime, because it's weird. It's weird, but not weird. I mean, it's just there's no BS there. You know, everybody pretty much told me what they thought.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's nice change.
I know, right? You didn't have any innuendo. You didn't what are you really saying? Dinners were 3 hours long. I didn't like that. I'm a 5-minute guy.
Yeah. I've eaten dinner with you, and you don't mess around.
No, man, get her done.
I'm with you.
So yeah, it was good, but 8-hour time difference. About 20 hours each way and travel. So that last week, that kind of just sort of killed me. And then like yesterday in Washington D.C., just for a couple-hour meeting.
I was saying you don't know what time it is at this point.
No, but that's okay. It's good. I love being here. This is my favorite place to be, but we're both embarking on this huge travel schedule. I mean, you're going to be traveling a lot here soon.
Yeah. I think I figured out basically 11 of 34 days.
Wow.
Coming up.
Wow. 34 work days or just 34 days? 34
business days. Or, I'm sorry, 34 calendar days.
Yeah. So it's worse for work. Yeah. Okay.
There's some weekend trips.
When does that travel start and when does it end?
Kind of basically the end of September through end of October. So it's not too bad.
No.
Yeah, that's where you feel bad for the wife.
I know, man. My admin, who is my wife, we were talking, there's 1 week in, I think, October, where I'm one day in Chicago, the next day in, I think, North Carolina, and then the next day in Dallas.
See, I can't complain about my travel schedule with you.
It's crazy.
Yours is insane.
It's crazy, man, but I love it sometimes. I'm hoping, I can bring my wife on 1 or 2 of those legs of the trip.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's the life we live. And then heading back out to Rochester again to work with the Big Blue out there.
I heard about that.
All right. So we have other things that happened this week, and then we'll get to some good stuff. More mentor program success.
Yeah.
We do the mentor program, the CISSP mentor program here. We've done it for the last 10 years. It's been so cool to see all the faces come through. I remember when we had 6, our first 6, 10 years ago. This last year, 530. You've done, I think, the last 3 with me.
3.
And it's like the gift that doesn't stop giving.
Yeah.
Because people pass their test and then they tell you thank you, and
it really does make it worthwhile to hear that. So, it sounds, I don't know, maybe a little self-serving, but it's nice to hear that. So,
right.
I think, I don't know if you have that same issue. I sometimes go, am I really providing a lot of extra value for talking through this? Mm-hmm. And I guess so. So it's right. Encouraging to hear. So
yeah, I mean, it's almost coming like once a week. We're getting once or twice a week. We're getting some sort of, hey, thanks for the videos on YouTube, or hey, I just passed my test, or something.
Right.
So it's really good. It feels good because it feels like you're contributing. We have this talent shortage problem, and I'm not just sitting on my ass not doing anything about it.
Complaining. Right. Right. Yeah, exactly. Doing something.
Yeah.
And, being totally honest, it's a good refresher for us too. I mean, I know every year it's like, I haven't thought about that since last time.
Right.
I don't do it. So it's a good way to stay, fresh on the material and not forget things.
Well, and how much is in what we do every day? How much is the basics? Like if you master the basics,
like 85% easily,
Right.
90%.
And so, going through those basics once a year, I think makes you so much a better security person. I think every
Yeah.
security person should just go back and revisit their CISSP materials once a year. Just to be like,
I just felt like millions of people cringing, or hundreds of thousands, I guess, hundreds of people.
Yeah.
I don't want to.
But
It's so useful, especially in the domains you don't work in.
Right. Absolutely.
And not realistically, people don't work in all 8 domains or in all areas of all 8 domains. You might work across multiple, but nobody that I'm aware of works across all of them.
No, you just can't. Information security is too broad. But anyway, that's cool. We got,
we've had
more people saying
20 or 25 people ask us for endorsements or tell us.
Yeah. And you'd think that means that there's 20, 25 people that passed.
At least.
At least, right?
Which is
because some of them
great.
probably know other people they can get their endorsement from. Another one is, we have I'm like everybody else, you have this short-term memory thing, right? We just did 9/11. We just celebrated or remembered 9/11 last week. And it's hard to believe, man, that's been 18 years.
I still remember.
Is that right? Yeah, 18.
Vividly where I was at. It's
right?
Crazy.
But, you go about your daily life and then you forget. And one of the things I really missed about that time period was just how unified we were. But anyway, it's this, it was only a few weeks ago we did this civic duty thing where we were asking or calling people to go and talk to their mayors, talk to their city administrators, county administrators, whoever, to get answers on how they're protecting themselves or the community from ransomware. Well, then we all kind of go off on our...
Right.
We saw a lot of activity and then, things take you away.
Yep.
But then one person that I just wanted to give some kudos to, and he'll know it when he listens, he messaged me on LinkedIn and he's still going at it.
He is.
And I'm just so pumped about that because it reminds me that, why did I just sort of stop that effort? I need to go back out there.
I know. Yeah, me too. I thought we'd made some progress and then I was waiting to hear. And life happens and I haven't done anything for a couple weeks.
Now, have you seen this message? Because I think
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw it.
Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
So he's still going after it. And then he did a little minor OSINT. He said did a little checking into their IT budgeting, and they mainly outsource the purchase of new equipment. Given this level of IT sophistication, I doubt they have anything formal in place. I think my next action is a series of phone calls. So this is somebody who's respectfully, I read his letter.
It was very well written.
Yeah. I mean, it's respectfully going and asking his town supervisor for information on what are you doing to protect me and the citizens in the town.
And didn't just ask, but also provided references and kind of some, hey, if you're curious, here's the stuff we're seeing and how you can help prevent it and stuff. So I thought it was really well written.
That's really cool. All right. So this is episode 45 of the UNSECURITY podcast. We're only 7 away from a full year. Yeah. It's cool to see. So, you and I both geek out on numbers. And so, you do the trend of number of listeners from when you started back in last November to what it looks like now. And it's just really cool to see that grow. But we'd always love hearing from our listeners too. So if there's something you'd like to hear us cover, we'd love to talk about it. And that's one of the things that we're going to go into now is when we talked a few weeks back, we talked about the vCISO, the virtual chief information security officer. And I personally got maybe 5 messages or emails about, hey, I want to be a vCISO. Yeah. That's what I aspire to be. So it seemed to touch a nerve. So I just wanted to talk more about vCISO. I wanted to talk about the opportunity in terms of vCISO. It's not going away.
No.
That opportunity will certainly grow. There'll be a need for many, many more vCISOs.
We're seeing not just the kind of that small, mid-sized market. We're starting to see larger companies come and say, "Hey, we need to do this," and we can't justify the cost or all those same struggles you hear from the smaller companies. We're starting to see from larger, what you would consider more enterprise level, organizations. So it's kind of cool.
I wish I could figure out how to turn off. I mean, I probably, if I was more technical, I'd be able to figure out how to turn these notifications off.
15 years ago, you could have done it.
Oh, 15 years ago, right? I could have done it just by 2 keys, probably a keyboard shortcut somewhere. Yeah, but now it's Windows 10 and God knows. Dude, speaking of Windows 10, just, because I'm always all over the place. Did you turn on facial recognition? Have you tried that?
I have not.
I've been using it. I don't know. Jury's out. I like it because I don't have to type my password.
Yeah, I don't know. I still have issues around biometrics as your
I know you do. I know you do. And valid too, by the way. Let's make that a discussion maybe for your next show. Is
great identification, poor authentication. You can't change it. It's not a good.
Yeah, it's sort of scary. All right, so the vCISO, I like vCISO. I think vCISO is healthy. Mm-hmm. I think it's healthy for a customer. I think it's healthy for, as long as you've got a good vCISO.
Yes.
As long as they're being held accountable for certain things, that are accomplishing those things, they're moving your security program forward. And I think it's healthy for the vCISO themselves. Because one of the biggest benefits, and I don't do it anymore, but when I was doing it, it was nice because I can drive this security program, but I don't have to own it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I act like I own it, but I don't really own it. The company owns it.
Yeah.
And I have that saying, I've said it many times, in 2 hours, I'm getting on a plane and I'm not going to think about you again until our next meeting.
It's funny. We have, so we were talking about what makes a good one. How do we do it and all that? And there's some people that just get that and understand it. And there's others that we brought in that are phenomenal at security that struggle with, it's not my program. Right. Ultimately, I can't make that risk decision for the customer. I can give them all the guidance, all the recommendations, all the tools, all the templates. If they're not going to do anything with it, I can't make them.
Right.
And there's people that struggle with that. It's a hard thing to do.
Right. Well, and the CISO, without the V, carries a lot of stress. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're in the BS, they're in the mud all the time. They're dealing with the politics of the company and everything else. And, it's sort of cool. So I was out in New York yesterday and you get so much more respect. It's not probably good, but you get so much more respect as a vCISO than you do as a CISO, it seems.
I use that all the time where it's like, hey, I get it. I've been in the situation where I've been saying, we got to do this. We've got to do this. We've got to do this 10, 12, 18 months. And then you get a consultant comes in for a day, half a day and goes, hey, you should do these things that he's been saying for 6 months or 8 months or whatever. And they're like, oh, yeah. I'm like, it's way more fun to be that guy to come in and help you. But the flip side is, when we're talking, I get where people are coming from. Everyone here has been in that position, and we want to help out and do the right thing. So it's a good partnership with typically IT. I mean, realistically, it's usually IT that we're working with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true.
It is a good partnership because everyone here has kind of been through that, and understands it and knows a lot of that.
Well, I think it also another benefit. So I think it's healthier to be a vCISO than it is to be a CISO, because I've been both. CISO, you carry it with you all the time. As a vCISO, I get to go from spot to spot, and I'm involved. I own it, but I don't live it there. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'm not stuck in it.
Yep.
But then I also get to take all the great ideas of things I see from all these different companies and steal them and make them my own. So I can, if I see something like, wow, that's really cool the way company B is solving that problem, I take it over to company A.
Right. Well, and that's part of our value.
Right.
Is now company A is going to benefit from what all of our other customers that are doing things well and all the tips and tricks that we've seen.
Right.
They're going to get that knowledge being able to be passed on to them.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think being a vCISO versus a CISO is healthier. I think it makes you a better security person. The market certainly isn't going away.
No,
we have this severe shortage of security people in our industry, so a lot of companies can't afford it. I was just out in DC, like I said yesterday, and I was having a conversation with the chief legal officer for this company, and she said, "Well, as we were going through this thing, our director of security or whatever left, and we've been trying to hire for like the last, 5 months."
Yeah, how's that going in DC?
Right, exactly. Well, in the last one, they were negotiating, salary, and he asked for like $1 million of equity in addition to, a very healthy salary. And it's like,
wow,
holy crap. Nobody can, and so they couldn't afford it. They're like, yeah, sorry. So, and not just that, but out in DC, you're dealing with a lot of government, people coming out of the government, which government and private sector are two totally different things.
Very much.
So they're still struggling. So I'm like, well, do you need a full-time CISO? I mean, can a vCISO, can somebody who's partial take ownership and run this thing for you? She's like, yeah, I guess we never considered that. I'm like, well, it's something to think about.
And the other thing we're seeing is that the successful companies that really just take that concept and run is they're doing that vCISO and then using that savings to hire some more maybe entry level or mid-level security staff
to get the tactical stuff
to get this, the hands-on done, and also train them up, right? You've got access to people with, decades of experience in some cases. Yeah, let's make use of that. So I think that's a really successful approach that we've seen multiple places.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the way we do it works really well too, because our vCISOs are put into a system, and you work within the system.
Right.
Not that you can't be creative and think of other ideas, but those ideas that you think of are those things that we should put into the system.
We get asked that a lot, in terms of that. And my analogy is, we have a framework. Think of it as a playground.
Right. Yep.
The structure is there. How that vCISO uses it is the same as a kid using a playground, right? The monkey bars, do they go across it correctly? Do they hang from their knees? Whatever the crazy thing is. But the same foundational structure is not changing.
Right.
Really the same concept.
I like that analogy. I've never heard that from you before.
Really?
No.
Huh? There you go.
See, creativity.
Words of wisdom.
Wisdom is.
But I mean, the reality is, that's really what what we try to do is,
right.
And I think overall it works pretty well. We've had some customers push back and say, well, then you don't have consistency. I'm like, well, no, because
you totally have consistency.
Every organization is different. Do you want me to tell you, let's just say you're, 500 employees in manufacturing, to have the exact same security program as a 300 person bank?
Right.
That doesn't make sense.
Right.
But you need the same structure, but how we actually use it has to be different.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. Because, and it's one of our truths, right? It's one of our principles that security is not a one size fits all.
Right.
So what works over here is not going to work the same way over there.
Right.
Right. The only way that could ever even possibly be true is if you had all the same business processes, you had all the same data, you had all the same people, you had all the same, same physical location, and that's just not true.
Right. But I would say there's a lot of similarity across banks, across
for sure,
hospitals versus clinics versus There are similarities in verticals. I mean, that's just the reality.
Yeah.
But if there's still no two security programs that are the same.
Never. Nope.
So.
All right, so let's talk about how to become a vCISO. So for somebody who's not a vCISO today, and let's start with somebody who's not experienced or just doesn't have a ton of experience. What would we, because I got those questions this last couple of weeks, and I was thinking, where should we take them?
Right.
And I think Christoph, to get into the industry, that's a great thing. But then figuring out your career path once you're in to become a vCISO.
I think, so the way I look at it, I think you've got kind of two paths. Either when you get into security, Either go into the governance and then management up to CISO, or you go technical for pen testing.
Mm-hmm.
What speaks to you?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at the end of the day, you kind of got to make a decision. Do you want to go more management route or stay very technical and hack things?
Right.
So, I think that's your first decision.
Mm-hmm.
What do I want to, what do I want to do? Do I want to deal with policies, procedures, and people, or, breaking things?
Breaking things is more fun.
Without a doubt.
So how the hell did I find myself here?
Yeah, I know.
Shit. Excuse my language.
So I think, from that, once you decide that, I think, and how do you decide that? Just personally, coming up, I knew I don't want to say I didn't want to stay in one place forever, but I also knew the more experience I had at the more places, the better I would be.
Right.
So, realistically, historically, 2 to 4 years at a look at somewhere from an IT or, kind of coming up, or some consulting in the back.
Yeah.
It's in 2 to 5 years, somewhere in that range, and kind of different industries and different markets, and just understanding what's out there. That variety really served me well.
Sure. Well, and for me, and I think that you and I are the same in our take on this, but depends on how new you actually are. I mean, if you're new, immerse yourself in security. You won't know what path to take until you sort of explore many of them, right? You might go down and, think, well, I want to be a pen tester because that's, looks cool. It's a subculture. I want to be one of those guys or gals. And so you get on that path, and then you're like, I don't like sitting in front of a console for hours and hours and hours trying to figure out this one little piece that I just can't seem to figure out. And then, you know what I mean? It's just, it's not for everybody. But then, exploring areas of, policy, process, procedure, training and awareness, all those things that go into that. I think once you sort of find your path, because I think you can start, because I started out technical.
Yeah, same.
And, and I think it's easier to come from a technical background than it is to come from like an audit background.
Yeah.
So, but both ways go. Like Pat Joyce, the CISO for Medtronic. I know him pretty well, and he came up through the audit path. So he's not super technical, but over time he's learned enough things about technical to speak to understand how that fits into his vision for security. So that's one way, but then you've also got people like me and you who came up from the technical way and worked their way through.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point. If you're coming technical, you're going to have to learn how to speak to the business and the business side of things. And that's been my biggest challenge. The technical piece comes pretty naturally to me.
Right.
So I think to become a good CISO or vCISO, you have to know both sides. So if you're coming from an audit background and you know the governance and you understand that, do some technical certs. Even if it's just like Network Plus or CCNA or Microsoft MCSE or A or whatever their one is now.
Yeah.
It's not going to hurt you to do those.
Right.
It's only going to make you better. Right. The more well-rounded you can be to understand both, because CISO, you have to know both sides.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, if you don't, you're not going to be successful. So,
yeah.
Or at least like you said, know enough to say, okay, or have the people to, understand what they're telling you.
Right.
If you have no technical background and they're talking about VLANs and segmentation and all, you just gloss over, it's not going to go well.
Right. Yeah. And being self-aware enough to know that, to look at yourself and find the gaps.
Right.
Right.
Constantly
what did I hear because it's not even today. Well, it's not like nobody's ever mastered everything.
Speak for yourself.
Well, other than you,
and
I know that.
Not me.
Oh, some other person.
Yeah, someone else. They claimed it.
Even in a meeting yesterday, I heard something, some technology I never heard of before, and I was like, okay. So I took a note, research this. So it's not that I'll need to master what that technology is, but I'll need to know enough of it to know how it fits into the puzzle.
Right. I get asked that all the time. They're like, well, what about, what do we get asked? Oh, Synology's storage is encryption. I'm like, oh, I've never used it. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
But I can look it up, and I understand enough about, encryption and storage to go and say, oh yeah, okay, this is what that's looking at. All right, that makes sense.
Yeah. So I think if you're starting at, and if you've already identified, so if you're new or newer and you've already identified that this is what you want to do in your career, you want to be a vCISO, you've done some research on it, you've talked to other vCISOs, and you're pretty set. I don't know, things keep popping up. I know, right? I'm very popular. If that's what you decide that you want to do, well then talk to more vCISOs, spend time with us, ask us questions, so that we can sort of coach you along the way. Because in some instances, depending on who you're going to be a vCISO for, right? If you're going to be a vCISO for a Fortune 500 company, because CISOs also can use vCISOs. A vCISO can make a CISO look really good.
Right.
Right. So it's not just, well, that company's already got a CISO, so they're not going to need a vCISO. That's not necessarily true.
No, I actually had a call recently. So our program, we do a CISO or vCISO, kind of a more senior person. And then we have an associate who's learning, sit in and take notes and, do follow-up. It's a great way to mentor and bring someone up.
Yeah.
And after the call, Victoria she was like, yeah, because we were talking about how great this customer is. And she's like, yeah, you're just like a safety blanket for them. He's using you as a sounding board and some accountability, making sure. And I'm like, yeah, it's great for me. But that's a perfect example. I mean, and it's somebody who's aware that, I've got a good program, right? Their score was over 700.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I still need, I don't know everything. Right. I need access to, I want access to somebody who can help, or if, they had some issues a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Hey, what should I be doing? Here's what I was thinking. Sanity check. And having been in that position where you're the only one, it's invaluable to have that resource to reach out to and be like, because we do it internally all the time here.
Right.
I mean, we did it with you and the IR, and like, what are we missing? Are we doing this right? Having that resource available is really good.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. Depending on what type of vCISO you want to be, so if you're looking at a vCISO for SMBs, that looks sort of this way. If you're looking for as a vCISO for Fortune 500 or Fortune, a large company, enterprise company,
publicly traded, or
that looks different. So, and you can grow from one into the other. I think vCISO is a newer practice where we haven't seen that a lot. We haven't seen a lot of vCISOs who started at SMB move into the enterprise, but I think there's clearly a path there somewhere.
We do have internally a path where if you're a new analyst, if you're doing vCISO work, you start at companies under 50.
Yeah.
And then once you've kind of proven and gotten your feet wet, you then move up to the next step.
Another tier.
So we do have that built in.
Like a stratum.
Yeah. Kind of like based on, company size and stuff. Because the bigger the company, the more complex and the more issues typically you'll face.
Yeah.
But that being said, it's also a very different approach from the SMB, like, that small business market of, again, we're going to call it under 50 employees.
Right.
Where it's, maybe one IT person, and it's not truly an IT, or they have, whatever, but it's a really good pathway that we build out here as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think, sometimes people may not want to move either. I mean, if you're a vCISO for like a consulting company like FRSecure, if you're serving enterprise clients, you may only have 2, 3, maybe 5 clients
at
the time. Whereas if you're in the SMB, it's just less time consuming.
So you probably have So our approach,
Might have many more.
we try to keep it between 5 and 10.
Yeah.
So the bigger customer, if you have bigger customers, it's going to be probably, 3-ish
Yeah.
vCISOs plus maybe 2 or 3 other projects, maybe that are ongoing. Right?
Yeah.
If you're
kind of keep you fresh.
if you're focused on a small business or the smaller businesses, yeah, you can expect to have 8 to 10 customers.
Yeah. But they're easy.
But they're a lot less.
I don't know about easy, but
They're a lot less
complicated.
Yeah, time involved.
Simpler. Yeah.
Yeah, simpler.
So if you are new and you want to explore this vCISO path, talk to other vCISOs. You can reach out to Brad and I. We've got, I don't know, a bunch of vCISOs here who are out doing this. Talk about their experiences, because it may look like this is the thing you want to do, but then if you get into it, you might find out, oh crap, I wish I wouldn't have done this. Right. I've never seen that, but the risk is there.
We've had a couple that came in and are really good at that, and then said, I'll do this, but it's not where my heart is. I really just want to be on the technical side. Yeah. All right. Well, let's make that happen and figure out a plan to move across. Because with good employees, you don't want to lose them. Right. If there's a spot, let's do it. So it does happen, but
yeah. How long would it take, do you think, from somebody who had zero experience, maybe career transition, who hears about, I want to be a vCISO? How long do you think that path is before the day, the first day they're sitting there across from a client?
I would say, so kind of our process internally, if you came in as, associate analyst 1, entry level with no, we've got professional experience, but maybe not in security. Right. We kind of say, if you're going to be a vCISO, you have to have your CISSP. Okay. Or so that's a minimum of 5 years. And realistically, it's probably, because you're getting a crash course in those 5 years. Right. I would say that 5 years is probably closer to 10 years of real world, as it were, experience, because you've got you're seeing so much more. You're working with, associates work with far more customers than our vCISOs or analysts. So I think 5 years, but there's progression up, right? So you start at associate 1, then 2, then 3, and by the time you get to 3, maybe you can do, some FISA small business with some help from an analyst. So you're going to be getting more responsibilities and growing, but here, I think 5 years is probably
just to get in the door as an associate. That would be, and then you'll need to.
You're going to have progressions, and there's all kinds
of growth from there. Yeah,
but before you're ready to, and you don't want to put people in a position to fail either. Right. So you rush them. Well, then nobody wins, and they get frustrated, or they leave because they're not successful.
That's a good point.
But
don't rush.
Having a good progression and making letting them know there's a ladder. You're not just stuck doing meeting minutes for 5 years. No, that's not the case.
That's CISO hell. All right. So so that's good. I think that's really good wisdom for people.
And our associates are just now going to listen to this, and I'll be getting knocks on my door later. Like, really?
Hey, well, it is what it is.
I'm kidding. I think we've been good about communicating with them.
Right. Well, communication is key. All right. So now I've had some discussions with experienced CISOs. These are CISOs because not everybody who is a vCISO has been a CISO, nor will they. Right. And that's okay. You need to get that off of your out of your brain, that you can't be a vCISO unless you've been a CISO somewhere before.
I'm trying to think. A lot of our analysts have not been named the title of a CISO or anything.
Right.
Because, but they've done the security work.
Well, and that's the thing. So if you're operating within a system that has been developed by CISOs that is working, that you know what I mean, and then it's been refined and everything, you get to take what we try to do here is to take the things that CISOs know, put them into a system so that everybody can use it,
Mhm.
right? So then you get to leverage the experience of, because it's not just me. We've talked to many CISOs
Yeah.
as we've been doing our things, and we take their input and like, yeah, that's a great idea. We should put that into the vCISO program. So you start taking these things from all these other CISOs and you put them into a system or a process.
Right.
So then, somebody who's never been a CISO, maybe has 7-10 years of security experience, can outperform a CISO with the same level of experience.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, speaking personally, I've been doing security related stuff in IT for, looking back realistically, almost my entire career.
Right.
And I would say I've probably learned almost as much in, the 3 years or
Right.
just 3+ years I've been here that I did in all that time. Just because you're, like I said, you're exposed to so many more things.
Right.
And I, like I said, I made it a point to make sure I had a wide variety of background experience and different things. And I love it.
I know that's the cool thing. And I think you can do that if you're not, because there's certain makeups of people that are resistant to learning and change. And,
Yes.
They have this ego thing because that leads into my next thing to talk about is, what about these experienced CISOs, these CISOs who have, take Pat Joyce, for instance, or
Right.
take the CISO for Domino's, CISOs that I've talked to that have boatloads of experience, right? And you put them into a vCISO team, and then would it just work or not? Because I don't think it does.
It depends on the person.
It
I mean,
totally
realistically, I've seen and worked with, CISOs or ISOs, whatever the top security position in the company, that are, kind of that how do I want to put it? Kind of that stereotypical kind of my way or the highway.
Egotist.
Yeah.
Authoritative.
Yeah.
Dictator.
This is how it's going to be. Too bad. We're into story.
Yeah. Right.
And
doesn't
no,
work.
I would never hire any of those people.
Well, and I think there's other CISOs too, because I'm thinking of another person in my brain, of somebody who I think is just an awesome person, but I think they're a crappy CISO, to be honest. And so, because there's some CISOs at big companies that have tons of experience and are nothing more than a figurehead. And then there are others who actually understand how security works. They put in the work. They understand that these puzzle pieces have to fit together.
Right.
Then there's others who are just really good at the political game and they can't play anything else. Mm-hmm. And so you've got all these different, and I think there's room in a vCISO program to take these people and put them in, like, I keep using Pat Joyce, but take anybody like that, worked 15 years, 14 years at a big company, had to deal with all the stress, regime changes, politics, all this crap all the time. Can you take that person? Because one of the things I've been saying to some of these larger CISOs is, why don't you think about becoming a vCISO?
Yeah.
Take all that awesome experience that you've learned over the years, take the stress away, and go work as a virtual chief information security officer. So
the one thing I think I would say is, again, it depends on the person.
Right.
Because if they're going to come in and say, well, again, this is how I've done it and this is how we're going to do it, it won't work.
It won't.
If they come in and say, hey, here's my experience, and learn, I think that's a big one. Come in and understand what our framework is, and say, oh, okay, well, why are you doing it this way? Here's my experience. If there's more collaboration, we're totally open to that. Like, we will fully admit we don't have a perfect program. Mm-mm. I think we have a really, really good one, but does that mean there's not room for improvement? No, there's always room for improvement.
Right.
Like, we get it all the time, even from, the associate analyst makes suggestions, and it's like, that's a great idea.
Right.
Like, so, if they're willing to be open and learn new things and be collaborative and understand that when you go home at the end of the day, you go home at the end of the day.
Yeah,
like,
sleep well.
Yeah. You don't, we don't get a lot of like emergency policy calls on the weekends, right?
Right.
Like you get your weekends back. We had one.
Jane in HR didn't do her training and awareness. Oh my God.
Right.
Yeah, you're not going to get that call
No.
at 3 a.m.
Right. It just doesn't happen. We've had a couple say, after a couple months, how's it going? And my wife's like, you're around a lot.
Yeah.
You're here all the time. What's going on?
When are you going to start traveling again?
So, I think if they understand that, there's some trade-offs, right? You don't own the program. That is, and it's a hard thing for people to understand. You can, air quote, own it and drive it and truly care about the company. And I think every one of our analysts does for their clients. At the end of the day, it's not yours. It's their program.
Right.
Like if you do the work for them, they'll never learn.
Right. Exactly.
Be there to go coach them and guide them and give them all the tools that you can to help them be successful. But let's get them standing on their own so that.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
So if you are an experienced CISO, there's room.
Absolutely.
Actually, I would encourage you, if you're the right kind of person, meaning a person who is collaborative, wants to learn, can fit in a team, in a framework.
Right.
I think one of the challenges is sometimes CISOs, have been, if you're the CISO, the top of the head, when you're a vCISO, you're not really top of the head. You're part of a team.
Right.
For whatever company you're working for as the vCISO. You might be sort of a semi top of the head, for the clients, but it's different.
Yeah. And we've had people struggle with that, right? I remember one specifically that was in a cube and was like, oh, this is so weird. I'm used to the corner office with the windows. And it surprisingly didn't last.
Yeah, no, if you're that kind of guy or gal, yeah.
It's not going to work, right? If that's what you're about, no.
If it's about status for you, if it's about, having that corner office, yeah.
No. If you're about helping the customer, helping your teammates and understanding that you're part of something. I mean, realistically, it sounds kind of cliche, but you're part of something bigger here.
Exactly.
It's worth it. And I think, it's very rewarding.
It is. Yeah. Well, it's super rewarding.
You help so many more people than you could possibly help if you're at one place.
Totally true. Totally. All right. So that was the talk about vCISO. And again, if you have more questions or specific things that you'd like us to cover, Brad and I have both been doing this for a long time, and we've seen other vCISO programs, and I think we can answer those questions. If there's a question we can't answer, we'll go find it.
We'll make it up. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we'll find it. Yes, we'll find it.
There you go. See, I like Brad because he's probably right. Anyway, new book announcement. I wanted to talk about this because, it's time to get the ball rolling here because now with what Security Studio is doing in terms of the S2 org and making that free, and now we've got the roadmap into the tool, and we've got these things kind of building. That's right. Let's teach people. And I think our target, so here's the announcement. Brad and I are writing a book together.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome, man.
It is. I'm actually excited.
I am too. We're going to change the world. And anybody else who thinks that they can't change the world, that's BS. Yeah. You can. Everybody's got an opportunity somewhere exactly to make a difference. So in this book, Brad and I our focus is SMBs, right? Mm-hmm. It's a book that can be read by the larger companies, but it's really the focus is on SMBs, and it's taking everything that we've learned in all of our years of helping SMBs build good security programs and maintain good security programs. How do they do it? What's a manual? What's a book? So we've used the analogy of like traction.
Right.
Gino Wickman wrote this awesome book about traction on how to run a business, a system. Let's do the same thing
for security.
On security. Yeah. Right. And so we've at FRSecure, we use what's called the FACT system. Mm-hmm. And in that FACT system this is how you build, maintain, run, measure, communicate, all those things, a security program. Mm-hmm. So now let's put it in a book.
Yep.
And the point here is not to, the point here is to take the things that you and I have learned, and make it available to everybody.
Yeah. It's publishing our playground, so to speak, right? Going back to where we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. And I want people to copy it. I want people to copy our FACT system. and call whatever system you want to call it. There's 4 million companies that we need to somehow reach. And I don't know how many customers we have here. We have a lot, 1,500 maybe customers at FRSecure.
Yeah.
So we're only scratching the surface.
Right.
And I know that there are other systems in the market. And it's not that one system is better than the other, but we just need to figure out a system that we can all buy into, that we can all operate by.
Yeah, and everyone, I think it goes back to, everyone is so closed on their system. They don't want to share with anyone.
I know.
And how that doesn't help solve anything.
I know. I totally want to disrupt this whole damn industry. I want to give away everything. You know what I mean? Just because you'll make your money, right? You'll collect your acorns somewhere.
Right. Well, and I've gotten asked that, like, well, if you, because talking about the book, if you write and publish, here's how we do this, isn't that going to hurt your business? Well, two things. No. Right. One, no, because you can't replace the expertise we have implementing it. Right.
Yes.
And then two, if we can get get that mission out there and understand, the more people we can reach, the bigger our audience of, okay, so if we give it to 100 people that had never heard of us or wasn't going to use us, and only 10 of those people say, you know what, I want help from them, we're 10 better than we were. And 90 more people are better than they were. Right. How is that losing?
Well, and give them the tools, because we both touched on it when we were talking about vCISO. It's not my program.
Right.
It's your program.
Right.
So you need to learn what your role is in that and how you manage that.
Right.
And if you decide to outsource some of that, the expertise or whatever, fine. But you still need to own it and know how
what does
it
that
works.
mean, right? If you do it inside, here's the one thing. If you outsource to a virtual CISO, here's what that means. Here's what they should be held accountable for. Here's what you need to do.
Well, in that way, you're only paying me for something I'm actually providing value in.
Right.
You're not paying me to do the same not stupid, but the same. It's sometimes stupid because I've done the same things over and over and over again, but I'm not doing the same thing over and over again where I'm not really providing any value. You can do this yourself.
Right. Well, and the flip side of that is we get asked, well, are you going to do my log reviews? I'm like, so if you were hiring a CISO, if you had a CISO, would you expect them to do daily log reviews? No.
That's probably something you should find another role for.
So why are you expecting to pay somebody with 20 years of experience with all these certs to look through logs? Yeah, like that.
And plus, we're that CISO is more expensive.
Right.
Why would you pay?
Hire an entry level person that wants to get into the industry, because there are a lot of people out there.
Right.
Don't have absurd requirements, and use us to help teach them what they should be looking for.
Exactly.
Yeah. Anyway.
So anyway, that's the book. We're starting it at like a crazy time, right? Let's start it at their busiest time of year, fourth quarter.
When you're about to go on like a big road show too.
I know, right?
So I told my wife, and her response was, "Are you insane?"
Yes.
We've been married coming up on 17 years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you should know that by now.
Right? Are you really asking me that question?
Come on. You know the answer.
But this is part of legacy too, right? I mean, it's helping people, and it'll come out in the book too, where our heart is in all of this, right? It's about, and the cool thing about a book is someday your kids will read it. Someday your kids might read it.
Yeah. My kids don't cut me any slack though. Like, when it was on the news a couple of times, they're like, on again. My oldest one was like, what? Talk about acid rain, it's got robots in it and they're going to hack you and blah, blah, blah. I'm like,
okay.
I love that they don't give me any.
They don't give you, they don't.
There's no, respect is there, but they don't give me any slack.
Right. All right. So watch out for the book. We'll be making more announcements as we get closer and closer. I think there'll be a pre-launch and all that good stuff.
And what we should talk about too.
I'm thinking maybe Q1, towards the end of Q1, we should have
pretty good. I think
most of it written.
It won't. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this turns out, because I think we've got a lot of it.
Oh yeah.
This isn't starting from scratch on something.
Oh no.
It's putting it into a format that others can understand and digest and
Right. Yeah.
that.
I mean,
so it'll be interesting to see how this goes.
that's the
versus...
biggest, and that's why I think writing is so therapeutic. It's taking this crap that goes on in your head that just spins around and makes perfect sense to you, and trying to put it on a piece of paper,
right,
where it makes sense to other people. And it's not like, yeah, I mean, it getting it out is
right.
It's rewarding.
Yeah, and so I will say, before we get to the news, we're hosting the Hacks and Hops this week.
Oh, that's right. Thursday.
Yeah.
Thursday. Come out to US Bank Stadium if you go to hacksandhops.com.
Right. I think there's still a couple.
Register.
I think we had over 200.
Nice.
I don't know the exact number. I knew we were over 200 last time I heard.
We got an awesome panel. I'm excited. Plus, people who like to drink beer can drink beer.
And we'll have one of our IR managers will be up here. And
is Oscar going to be here?
Well, Oscar and Tom.
Oh, are they really?
Yeah, they'll both be up here.
Big
so
hugs.
I think Oscar flies in tonight, and Oscar tonight and Tom tomorrow, I think.
That's super cool.
No, you know what? Whatever. They'll both be here. That's
awesome.
the important part.
So Hacks and Hops Thursday.
Yep.
Thursday, I think it starts at 1. Am I right?
Two.
1? I don't know.
I don't know.
All right. So Thursday afternoon.
The important details. I'm sure.
Well, go to hacksandhops.com. You'll see it all.
We'll have Brandon make sure he puts that in the notice when he sends out that it's published.
Sure. Yeah.
There you go.
It works.
There you go, Brandon. We're going to see if he listens to the podcast before he sends it.
Yeah. Oh, what time is it? All right. It's time to start going here. All right. Excuse me. I have 3 news pieces. One's been all over the place. So this is from Ars Technica, and it's the title is "Check the Scope: Pen Testers Nabbed, Jailed in Iowa Courthouse Break-In Attempt." These are 2 security folks from Coalfire who, on September 11th, I don't know if there's any significance. If there's any,
it's just bad timing
significance to the that timing versus whatever. But they were nabbed in Dallas County, Iowa. Now, Dallas County, Iowa, we've done work before for Dallas County, Iowa. None of us, I don't think, were not arrested or charged. But this, 2 guys from Coalfire who, now I've been arrested numerous times before in these types of things. I've never been booked or charged.
Well, it's because
you've had
you carry the letter.
Right. There's either a letter of engagement, there's some sort of get out of jail free card, some sort of, whether you carry the statement of work or something.
Right.
That gets me out of jail. But there's obviously some other communication issues here in terms of scope.
Yeah. This was a big miss by somebody.
Somebody messed up somewhere.
I read this and sent it to Ben and Oscar. I was like, I'm glad this wasn't us, because that's going to be
right.
I mean,
this isn't Coalfire's first rodeo, right? I mean,
no, they're
thousands
big.
of assessments, and so
somebody messed up pretty big on this.
Yeah,
one.
Where the mess up happened, I don't know if it was a mess up on the part of the client or part of Coalfire or part of both or part of these 2. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know if we'll continue to get updates on this. But I do know that I was checking yesterday that just the court records for one of the 2 defendants, Gary DeMercurio, $50,000 bail.
Yeah,
he's got a court appearance next week. We'll see.
Yeah, I think the big thing is it states in there that the company was hired by the state court administration to test the security of the court's electronic records and attempt.
So somewhere there was a mix-up.
Yeah, they said attempt unauthorized access to court records through various means, but they did not intend or anticipate these to include forced entry into a building. To me, that forced entry, you better have it in writing that's okay.
It's one thing to have social engineering. We do a lot of social engineering type physical pen tests.
But it states in, so we'll do the physical pen test, and then in the call we have before we do anything, the analyst is on the call with the client to say what's acceptable.
Yeah, something was totally missed, and very, very, very rarely do we do a burglarized type of forced entry pen test. You really have to have your I's dotted and your T's
right.
crossed if you're going
Right.
to do something like that.
It'll be like, hey, these are susceptible to these types of attacks.
Right.
We don't do the attack.
Yeah. Well, and if you were, like I said,
It's-
it's fine, but you better have it
Yeah, it'll
ironclad
state,
in terms of your statement of work.
it'll
and
state
your-
that forced entry is acceptable or whatever.
Right.
But I mean, realistically, that could have turned out way worse. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
they're lucky they
You could've gotten shot.
they just got arrested
Yeah.
because they're in a courthouse.
I know. Well, they both bailed out, so have their
But-
court appearances to make. And I think
That'll be a story.
it's Gary, the one defendant. I think he's out of Florida,
Right.
so he's got to come all the way back up to Iowa.
Yeah,
for
the other guy was
another
out of state too.
court
They're,
appearance.
I think
Yeah.
out of Colorado or something. So
Yeah. So I feel bad for those two. Sort of. I mean, I do, because somewhere somebody messed something up, whether it was management, sales, project management, something got screwed up. And for some reason, I'm guessing these two thought that, hey, this is in scope. This is going to be fun. We're going to meet up in Iowa. And this is how we're going to plan it. I mean, there's so much planning.
They don't carry their letter.
Well, assuming they even had one, you know what I mean? Because it looks like the courts are saying, yeah, this was not authorized to do
but
physical break-in.
If you're going to do a physical break-in, why would you not make sure you have that letter that you think gives you the okay to do it?
Right.
Either way, not fun for those guys. Bad long weekend.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So the next piece of news is the U.S. Treasury. So this is from Security Affairs. The U.S. Treasury places sanctions on North Korea-linked APT groups. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of North Korean-linked APT groups. And if you don't know what APT is, Advanced Persistent Threat. Yeah, so Security Affairs, it's a good write-up. I don't think it's surprising. Yeah, so, there's now sanctions on North Korean-linked hacking groups. In case you didn't know, the U.S. and North Korea are not allies.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, the long list of sort of all these, if you do more research on these North Korean-linked APT groups, there's a lot of them, and there are a lot of AKAs, AKA. So that's about all I had for the news on that.
That was
one.
interesting.
Yeah, interesting. Not something like, oh my God, I got to do something about that.
Yeah.
No. The last one, news before we wrap up the show is this comes from GB Hackers on security. Netcat, new attack allows hackers to spy and steal the data from Intel CPU remotely. This is sort of interesting. The flaw is called Netcat, which is also a popular tool.
I know.
I used to use back when I was pen testing, which I haven't done for a very long time. But affects the Intel CPU, allows attackers to steal sensitive information from untrusted clients. Netcat here is short for Network Cache Attack. That's the name given by the researchers. And every exploit, any type of attack, you have to give a cute name to it. I don't know if you know that.
Yes.
And usually like a cartoony looking sort of logo would help as well.
Yes.
I haven't seen if there's one for this. But the vulnerability resides in the Intel feature called DDIO, Data Direct IO, input output. Due to the flaw, network devices and other peripherals can perform side channel attacks.
Yeah.
So it's not.
It was interesting there. They're allowing the network devices or other peripherals to access the CPU cache directly.
Yeah. Seems like a design flaw. I don't know if there's any. Is there any patch? The test in this same article, researchers from VUSEC, they did successfully test the Netcat attack and leak the arrival time of individual network packets in an SSH session via the side channel. I don't know how you would patch this.
I don't know.
Seems like an architecture.
Intel's you kind of wonder if manufacturers are going to start looking at AMD. This is the third major physical flaw in Intel chips.
Right.
Recently.
Well, and it also goes to the point, right? We knew we've got this thing that we always say that something that's insecure at the core will always be insecure.
Right.
And so what's more core to a computer than the CPU that processes everything?
Let's let peripherals directly access the cache.
Yeah. So
you're going through,
until security gets considered, it's step one in the process and really gets integrated into things, then things like this are more popular or possible. So I don't know any workaround for that. You can read about it. I don't expect I don't expect anybody to be hacked anytime soon using this exploit, but it is interesting and it shows just another flaw.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. There you have it. Thank you for another great show, Brad.
Yeah.
Seriously, it's cool to be sitting across from you.
Yeah.
Again.
Welcome back.
Thanks, man. Special thank you to our loyal listeners. We love your feedback. So seriously, if you've got more feedback for us on anything we talk about or something you'd like us to talk about, send it to unsecurity@protonmail.com. If you're a social type, socialize with us on Twitter. I'm at Evan Francine and Brad's at Brad Nye. Anything else to add, Brad, before we wrap this up?
No. Have a great week.
All right. Have a great week. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the UNSECURITY podcast. We value our listeners and would love to hear from you. Give us your feedback by emailing us at unsecurity@protonmail.com. That's unsecurity@protonmail.com. Be sure to tune in next week to hear the latest insights from Brad and Evan.